All right, welcome back, everybody. I apologize if my voice is a little weird because I'm fighting a bit of a cold, but I'm glad to see you guys are keeping up with these videos and things are starting to get interesting. And in this video, we are going to create an enemy that our player must face. And it's a lot easier than you think. What we'll do in this video is just get the enemy set up. Make sure he's following the character around and trying to chase the character. And we won't worry about any damage or anything like that just yet. But it's, like I said, fairly easy to implement. And so here's where we've left off. Obviously, we've got the game, we got the pause menu working. You know, it's working. We've got the walk cycle. Obviously, everything's still working just great. What we're going to do is we're going to drop in a game object. It's going to just be a cube. Start with a cube, as always. Oh, and it's way the heck in the space, so let's bring it back to us. Where is it? Where is it? Let's just zoom out. Oh, there it is. It's behind our guy. Here we go. We'll put that somewhere in our scene where we can see it. And let's just kind of rotate around here. Pull it, we'll put it by the house. Okay. And because it is just a standard cube and right now it's just floating, let's do the right thing and just add a rigid body to it. Boom. All right, so now it will respond to physics. We've already covered this, we know this. Okay, so how do we turn a cube, a simple cube, into an enemy? That's what we're going to look at. So first of all, I'm going to rename the cube. I'm just going to go in here and rename it and call it Deadly Cube, because it's going to become an enemy. All right, so whoops, every time I hit that, we go way back. I guess I should actually go in and just double click the character model. There we go. Okay, so he's going to be facing off with this enemy called Deadly Cube. Okay, so what we need to do first of all, obviously, is create a script for this. And we're going to go down into our scripts. We're going to create a C# script. And let's call it enemy attack. All right, enemy attack. And let's go into our editor, Visual Studio, and start editing this thing. Okay, so like I said, it's quite easy to create. We're going to get rid of the start because I don't think we're going to need that at all. What we want to do first of all is we're going to want this cube to have some sort of a movement speed variable that we can control. So we're going to make a public. It's going to be a float so that we can control it by, decimal increments. We're going to call it enemy speed, I guess, equals, let's go with 1.5f, which was the speed that we had for the character. We're also going to have to define who it is that we want these enemies to attack. So we're going to go public, game object, and we're going to call this player. Okay. So far everything makes sense. We've got two variables, one for the speed and one for the actual player. And now we're going to tell it to track the player. And this is, again, like I said, fairly easy because in Unity, we can use something called transform dot look at, okay, player dot transform, okay, and what that's going to do is whatever this script is attached to, I misspelled transform, whatever this script is attached to is going to look at whatever we define as a player. Okay, so let's save this and let's take a look at how that's going to work. So in the game, I'm going to go to my Deadly Cube and I'm going to add the enemy attack script to it. Okay, whoa, 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 whoa. There it goes. Whoops. And like I said, the variable that we have to set here for a game object variable is what the player is. We could also use the tags and stuff as well, but in this case, it's easy. We're going to take the game character model and we're going to just drag it there because that's what we want this cube to track. Another thing that's going to prevent some problems is the same issue we had with our character. Inside the rigid body component, under constraints, I want to freeze the rotations. I want this cube to stay vertical the whole time. I don't want it to fall over or whatever. So now if we play it with that simple script on there, we should see that that cube will rotate to always face the player. And that's what we want. We want an enemy to follow up our player, so we want it to always be looking at the player. All right, so you'll notice that player or enemy speed has no purpose yet because all it's doing is setting up for when we're going to move our guy. I mean our enemy, sorry. So let's go into enemy attack again. And now let's add the actual movement of the enemy itself. And so for this one, it's going to be transform again, dot position, okay, because the enemy is going to be changing his position, and plus and equals transform dot forward. Okay, you remember this from before when we were creating our player character controller. So the position is going to change. We are going to be adding to the forward direction of the character, multiplied by our enemy speed that we set, multiplied by time dot delta time, which we've already discussed in a previous video. What that should do, guys, is now our enemy will not just be looking at our character, but he'll also be moving towards him because he's always facing our character. All right, so you'll see that now he's not only looking at the character, but he's also facing the character. He's not only looking at the character, but he's also moving towards the character. So let's save that and let's run it. Sure enough, the cube comes after us now. All right, and you can see that that cube is quite aggressive. Comes right after us until it hits us and actually continues to hit us and try to push us out of the way. All right, so that's working great. Now, with that cube selected, let's just take a quick look at everything that we've got there. Everything looks great. You'll notice that it has a bit of an angle to it. It's sloped down. And I'm not sure if that's because we set it to player character. We could swap it to just the player cube. That's the actual hitbox around our character. We could try that. Try that as a test. Let's play it, see if it makes any difference. That seems to be a little better because now it's actually angled directly towards, yeah, you know what, that is better. All right, so we'll just stop it right there. Now, we've done this before. We are going to get our model in here instead of a cube. By the way, nice thing about these public variables is that you can change them right in the script here. So if the player is moving too fast or too slow or whatever, we can just quickly just change the speed right here and it'll remember. As long as we're not in play mode, it'll work just great. So we're going to bring in a character. So we're going to go to our assets. We're going to go to, let's make a folder. Actually, I already did, called enemies. Okay, so right click, create a folder, call it enemies. And inside here, I already have this enemy in here, but I'm gonna delete him so that you guys can see what I did. So we'll just delete that, get rid of him. Okay, he's no longer in there. You're going to find this asset inside of the Unity basic assets, update 2. He's called enemy.fbx. We're going to throw him into there. There he is. And you may recall when you bring in an FBX that you have to import both the textures and the materials. So we're going to extract both of those. And that's under the materials tab. Okay, if it says to fix now, you can fix now. It seems to do a good job. Extract the materials. Same deal. And now we've got everything we need. Our character looks great. He's modeled. This is our enemy, by the way. I don't know if you can tell. He's like a little Viking gnome type thing. I don't know. But anyways, let's bring him into the scene And he is actually going to be a child of the deadly cube. But for now, let's just get him placed. Let's save that. Okay. And let's rotate so his forward-facing direction is the same as the cube. Let's zoom in and kind of check out where his placement is here. Get him lined up more or less to the cube. Move him back. Move him up. Maybe shrink him a bit because we want him to actually, whoops, to actually fit inside the cube, right? And we'll just, whoops. What am I doing here? Okay, there we go. Let's just do this. If we want to, we could, like I said, just get them fitting within this box as close as we can. All right, if it helps, double click the cube, get closer, get it from all angles, make sure he's in there more or less. I always leave a little bit on the bottom. Otherwise, if you don't get it perfect, your character looks like he's floating on the ground rather than actually walking on the ground. So I always leave like kind of a little bit of the soles of the feet sticking out. Okay, now we can take our enemy and we can make him a child of the cube. And we can turn off the mesh renderer of the cube itself so that we just see the enemy. And again, because the cube has the follow on it, we will now see that the enemy will follow us instead of the cube. Oh, and he's backwards. He's backwards. Okay, well, we'll fix that right now. So, I don't know why. I guess, oh, I think I understand. So the cube actually, its forward-facing position is the other way. So it's actually turning around to face us. Hopefully that makes sense. So we're going to have to rotate him also if we want him to face that way too. This is a kind of a stupid mistake on my part because I could have just rotated the cube first or even rotated the cube after the fact rather than reworking this guy back into the cube. But now if we play, he should face us. Oh, we can't see him. We have to turn off the mesh renderer. All right, let's try that again. Jeez. Yep, and now he's facing us. But as you can tell, he's doing the slide thing. Just sliding around like a professional ice skater. So we're going to add an animation sequence to him. And if you remember, we're going to go into the FBX and you will see a movement, a walking cycle here. All right, if you recall, we're going to drag that walk cycle out. Animation clip. Oops, we will take that. Whoops, my bad. I am really rusty here. First, we're gonna have to loop it. So we're gonna go to edit, and we're going to turn on the loop time. All right, so loop time has to be on. We're going to apply it. You have to choose apply or else it won't work. Okay, then we can take that animation and apply it to the enemy itself. All right, and you will see, if you did it correctly, that it adds an animator controller, and it's applied to the enemy, as we can see. So if we play that, you'll see now that he kind of walks and slides towards us. Problem is he's moving way too fast, and his movement doesn't make sense. He's not really moving the way, you know, his animation is showing him moving. So if we go Deadly Cube, this is where that enemy speed, you know, the ability to change enemy speed variables, super handy. So I'm going to put it at 0.5 instead of 1.5. I'm just going to save that. And if I hit play, it's going to be a much more believable speed for his animation. All right, and you will see that he will follow us around wherever we go. He's going to follow, and we can still do our pickups and all the rest of it, and this dude will just keep following us around. We might also want to go and edit the collider of the box because I forgot to do that. So let's just shrink it down so it fits this character better. All right. Now colliders become very important as we get into things like, you know, damage or attacks. because we'll have to make sure our hitboxes are accurate to detect an actual attack. So if we play that, we will now see that he comes right up to us and will push us out of the way. All right, so that's pretty good. That is pretty good. And that's where we're going to stop for this one. All right, we've added a very basic script that allows the enemy to follow us. We also have the enemy that will turn towards us, follow us, and we have an actual model with a move animation on there. So all these things are super important in order to set up enemies for our game. Again, we can duplicate this cube as many times as we want. So if we duplicate it another time, right, we're going to have another enemy, right? We throw one over there. We can duplicate it again. And you may notice in actual games where you see, I don't know if you guys have noticed this before, how much games you play, but you may see when a scene loads that it looks like characters kind of drop from the sky for a second. That's what's happening there. Basically, their rigid body is up in the air until they make contact. So in this case here, we got 3 enemies. They're all coming after us, but they don't really do anything to us yet. They just kind of push us around. And so we want to get these guys to actually cause us some damage or kill us, okay? So that will be next. All right, so stay tuned for the next part. Hope you found that useful.